Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live, or hopefully live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. We are joined by... Let's see if we're live while I check. Hopefully, yes, we are. Hallelujah. We are joined by Flatzoid, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. We are actually live. Hooray.
Yay, I'm alive.
How? Hello.
Hello. I'll need to hustle some people off mute. That I've definitely not done, so I'll do that while I'm asking the first housekeeping question. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No. Not even from the globe model itself.
None at all. The same one that the globers are now throwing away.
What? We do not see the geometric horizon. That one.
Well, if you don't see it, then how
You
can you
would think
measure
there'd be
it?
something if it's supposed to be there.
And as Neil just pointed out, how are you supposed to measure it if you can't see it? Answer, you can't. You'd need to have geometry in the first instance. Al-Biruni's claimed to have measured it, but of course, in rebuttal to a black swan that demolishes it, we're told we don't see the geometric horizon. We wouldn't expect to see it, even though Al-Biruni measured it, and everything that you're going to claim thereafter is going to be based on the R value he claimed to measure. But there we go. Happy days. No evidence of Earth curve. Only exists in the maths, as always. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We would have shortened flight times if there was, Nathan. So, no.
Wouldn't you first need a sphere for that?
The assertion. Yeah, you'd need to beg the question of a sphere to make the assertion.
I think, hey everyone, hey Nathan.
Hey Brian, good to have you.
I think I've been looking into the moon, and the moon definitely causes major problems for their argument. As I won't go into too much now, as I haven't formulated it correctly, but the moon definitely causes major problems to the whole rotation argument. Besides the fact that there is no observed Coriolis effect.
Okay, yeah, we'll get
Well,
to that. Can you fill us in straight after housekeeping? Is that good by you, Brian?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Let's rattle our way through them. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. No evidence.
No, but I was also going to say, don't forget the selenium.
Look about as far as the moon is.
Again, Tommy?
It looks about as far as the moon looks. Doesn't look that far away. Doesn't look 93 million miles away, that's for sure.
Any evidence of the distance?
Well, I agree with Tommy there. I mean, if something was 93 million miles away, would we even see it?
Not asking for distance.
I'll just quickly pull out my tape measure.
There is no evidence.
I was going to say, I'll clarify the question. Not any evidence of a claimed incorrect distance that we know it's not, but any evidence of the distance.
We can use trigonometry. We can trigonometry with people.
See, what you're not understanding is that we can assume the size of Venus, and then the rest just falls into place.
Good old Christian Huygens.
Just bend the triangles.
Let's move on.
No, but we first have to assume that there is an R value.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well lay it out now. You guys have done such a good job of bringing all the aspects to the table. First, assume Venus is the same size as the presupposed radius of Earth, based on a horizon that Al Biruni thinks he can measure but can't see according to the fundies we debate with. So, presume Earth's a sphere with R, that you can't measure. Then presume Venus, a light in the sky, is the same presupposed spherical rock size as Earth presupposed to be a sphere. Then apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, and Bob's your uncle, you can derive all the distances to everything in the claimed to be solar system, i.e. a system with the sun at the centre known as the heliocentric model. You can derive it all, you just need to make a couple of blatant assumptions that you cannot verify, and derive everything from there. Of course, we've debunked R, so claiming Venus is the same exact size as Earth. Ever wonder why they call it Earth's twin? Well, that's because they've assumed it's the same size as us. They being Christian Huygens in this example.
Where are these
And that
things
were
are
both
worked,
planets. Sorry.
Go
where
on,
are these
Flatsoid.
things are worked out with? Where are these things are worked out with a geocentric model before either?
Indeed. Go on, Brian.
You?
Hey, Arwin, good to have
Yeah,
you.
just saying that they also pre-assume that both places are planets in a vacuum.
Exactly. Assume Earth's a planet, assume Venus is a planet, assume they've both got the same radius value, assume they're both spherical. Hey, yes, we can now hear you, Arwin. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
No. What there is, though, at the moment, at present time, since 1915, mainstream science, pseudoscience, have openly declared that gravity is an observed effect. Now, they have what they claim to be the cause of this effect is the curvature of space-time by matter. But how have they verified this? We have a particular method for establishing cause and effect. So how have they verified that the effect that we see, that they call gravity and buoyancy, although buoyancy is not part of it anymore because buoyancy is connected to mass attracting mass. How have they established that this effect that we see, this observed effect, is caused by the curvature of space-time by matter?
What they effect? Calculated it.
Hold on.
They only have an effect.
Hold on. What effect? What are we observing? What's the observed phenomena? An effect in science is an observed phenomena that you want to know the cause of. So what's the effect that you're saying we observe?
Well, the effect that they observe and declare on is that things fall to the ground. Now, while they're observing this effect, they're ignoring the other. They're ignoring that things also go up.
Hold on.
So
yeah, that's true.
So this isn't a phenomena then. If you're saying, well, we can observe something completely contrasting this single claimed vector of down in the form of, say, a helium balloon, you can debunk that notion. But that isn't necessarily what they assert in the phenomena that they're looking at in the sky, is it?
No, they're asserting that there is a downward vector of everything, while ignoring all the things that go up.
Well, that's useless. Okay, fine. Any more scientific evidence? Not that was of gravity.
Well, they had to change it to specific gravity at a stage, and that's just relative density. So, actually, they're just affirming gravity doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's relative density T.
Relative density to T?
Yeah. Relative density T. And
just
they
density.
call it gravity.
Depending on what you're talking about, it's just density, right? It only becomes relevant in these descriptions if you've got a relative disequilibrium between two densities, one being a medium. Well, you can only be a medium potentially if you're not solid, although that's not strictly true. We won't get into that though.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean in simple terms. Well, being relative to a different density, you could call relative density, but then you're getting quite specific in terms of what's occurring. Whereas just density is the overall description of what's like an umbrella term for what we describe, right? How dense something is.
But singular density doesn't cause the displacement. It's only...
But you're immediately into describing something else that's happening, a displacement. So then you're into the more complex nature of relative density, because you've got two different things, one that's going to displace the other. So then it's, right. Overarching is density. Well, in this example, when you've got two different ones that you're going to say or talk about the displacement of one with the other, well, then that's relative density. Relative between the two things, that one that's displacing the other. So yeah. Any scientific evidence of gravity in the meantime?
No, they actually only have an observed effect. That is only half of a phenomenon.
An observed effect?
But do they really observe it though?
I was going to say, didn't we just cover this?
You mean the heavy ball on a trampoline?
Hold on, didn't we just cover this, Brian?
No. I did say only half of a phenomenon, Nathan. I said, no, they don't have any scientific evidence. I did state that.
When you say half a phenomenon, you mean... Yeah, well, the other half would be the antithesis of what he's claiming is the phenomena in the first instance. Well, if you've got an equal and opposite to it, it's not. It's kind of. it's more akin to what we've just described with density, really. I mean, I'm not being funny, but
the
thing that makes me laugh is that they must have come up with this gravity thing, and then they realised they messed themselves up, and had to make another reason for why things go up, and say, oh yeah, it's pulling everything down, and that's what's pushing it up. So the very thing that's pulling things down is also responsible for pushing things up. It's just to cover their tracks because they realised they messed up when they isolated this one. Observed phenomena of things falling.
But that also invokes gravity, you realise. You're talking about buoyancy. Buoyancy has also got gravity in it. So it's just...
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. Well, like that, gravity as a concept can kind of like be overlaid over the relative density, this equilibrium system, the density system, but it leaves some little room to speculate or to ignore entropy. And then imagine that potentially there can be outer space out there. That's really the only reason it was fabricated in the first place. Because I'm pretty sure that before gravity, it was just called density and described as relative density.
I don't know if it was.
It's funny as well.
I don't know if it was.
It's funny as well because gas doesn't even get affected by gravity. Like you don't see gases coming down; they're omnidirectional. So how is it pulling down for the helium to go up? It's just a contradiction. You don't see that gas.
It's not that it's not subject to gravity; it's debunking gravity.
Yeah.
Can I ask a basic question on this?
Of course.
I take that as a yes. All right. So when they say mass attracts mass, would it be safe to say what they're saying is that in Newtonian language, not that Newton ever said this, that the larger mass will always be pulling or have a tug effect on the smaller mass, so there would only be one vector, everything going towards the larger mass. Would that be safe to say is their position if they argue from that point?
Number one, yes, they say mass attracts mass. Number two, why are you asking? This is 105 years out of date. In the pre-show, we said we're going to draw a line under this 105-year out of date mass attracting mass nonsense. It's been superseded.
Yes, I know, and I agree. But that's the whole point. That just the mass attracts mass in itself is a contradiction, because then you would only see one vector, only things going towards the larger mass. But as we're describing here, there's things going against it. So obviously mass attracts mass doesn't work.
Yeah, that's Tommy's point. Yeah, you've got it in all vectors, debunking this notion of a single vector of down with gravity, and the begging the question fallacy of gravity with buoyancy. Oh yeah, absolutely, it's debunking gravity.
Well, that's why they made the bending of space-time, which is complete fictional medium based, but it was basically to lead away the attention from the literal causal relation of the mass supposedly attracting the mass, for which there is no proof. It's just, it didn't work out, to it's the masses, but it's not the masses. It's just the culmination of the mass in an area that kind of not directly, but indirectly summons this attraction, which is described as the bending of space-time and like things falling fourth dimensionally into a hole.
Yeah.
But it is basically the replacement concept to draw away the independent variable from the literal mass itself.
Precisely. It's much easier to bullshit people in the abstract realm of maths. in pseudo geometry that doesn't apply to reality. No, we don't live in a fourth dimensional space-time reality. That's just a mathematical construct they use to describe things. And isn't it so much easier to just bullshit your way around bending geodesics in a space-time medium, a fabric that doesn't exist? Yeah, much easier than talking about something that physically should be happening in reality when they talk about a mass attracting a mass. Well, show me mass attracting mass. Well, it doesn't. Here's our Cavendish experiment.
Well, Nathan, they need dangly balls with their bending dick, otherwise it's not going to be complete.
Yeah, they need Reverend John Michel, CV Boys, and Cavendish with his contraption to claim mass attracts mass. It doesn't. It's 105 years out of date. It's been superseded by Einstein. And when Einstein replaced that nonsense, it was left in the dust by the bending of conceptual mediums known as space-time. That's what gravity is now. Hence, we've drawn a line in the sand. No longer will we laugh at you about your nonsense claim to be experiment called Cavendish. It isn't. It's not science. Pseudoscience. And why should we?
What did Einstein replace exactly?
Again?
What did Einstein replace exactly?
Newtonian gravity.
Really? So F equals ma has been replaced by what exactly?
I just told you. Are you deaf?
No, just explain it to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not my claim. You explain it to me. It's your claim. Your gravity.
No,
you tell me. You tell me. You show me space-time. Show me space-time. It's your claim, not mine.
You said it's super.
I don't care what I said. It's your claim. I realise that we have to educate people on the other side of this argument about their nonsense in gravity. It's not my claim, though. It's nonsense. It's bending fourth-dimensional medium labelled by Einstein as pseudo. So it's definitely not something I believe in. It's pseudo-nonsense by Einstein. However, that pseudo-nonsense I don't claim, don't believe in, and debunk on a daily basis that I'm not claiming you are, because you're a fundy globehead who believes in this shit. Well, that replaced Newtonian nonsense. Simple. I'm telling you about your rhetoric. Don't claim I'm claiming it. I'm not.
You said it's superseded, so...
Yeah, that's right. Superseded, that's right. No more mass attracting mass, superseded, correct. Yes, that's your priests telling us when they replaced it, who replaced it, how it replaced it, what it replaced it with. Your priests, not mine.
Yeah, and it wasn't that hard to do either.
F equals ma. What does it replace
Because Newton never claimed a hypothesis in the first place, so they had nothing they had to disprove first. There was no proof for it in the first place.
Right, F equals ma is maths. Maths. Yeah. Abstract. Maths.
Interesting.
Do you not understand? That's maths. That's not physics. We're dealing with the physical world. That's what we deal with on this show. You can babble your maths at me and I won't be interested because that's abstract, not physical. Shout out to Al Junkie, who says, globers are confused with mass. And then he says, greater than hashtag mass turbation.
You mute this word.
Oh my god. Terrible. Why don't I read these before I read them out loud?
I'm just waiting for them now to start pushing entropic gravity.
Chocolate gravity?
Entropical
Entropic
gravity.
Oh god.
He broke up.
He said entropic gravity.
Oh god. Emergent forces.
It's a new thing.
Yeah. We'll hear that a lot.
To start pushing that.
I don't know why they didn't just call the new gravity bending of space-time, why they didn't just call it universal attraction. Because it's not the mass attracting it anymore. It's just the local presence of mass just creates a universal attraction.
Because it's not a force. Attracting, that's forcing one thing towards another. That's a force. It's not a force though, is it? So no.
Do you mean Newton's law of universal gravitation?
No, we're not talking about Newton's law. Read my lips. Line has been drawn in the sand. No more Newton. It's 105 years out of date. 105 years out of date. Superseded by your own words. That's correct. Yes, superseded. You've understood.
Superseded good. With what exactly?
Let it go. Just let it go. 105 years out of date. Let it go. Let it go, Fundy. We'll counsel you down from your Newtonian addiction. It's 105 years out of date, replaced by Einstein. Not my claim, your fundy pseudo claim. Okay?
Replaced with what, Nathan?
Einstein, are you deaf? My God, it's so difficult to listen to me explaining something that's been on the table for 105 years.
What has replaced F equals ma then?
Right, that's maths, isn't it? Yes, Nathan, that's maths. And what do we deal with here on Flat Earth Debate? Do we deal with mathematical reifications and abstractions? No, we don't. We deal with physicality and physics. Yeah? That's why I'm asking for scientific evidence of gravity. Not for you to give me maths.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it's not fine. You've done it 4 times, making you a moron. And worthy of having a strip torn off by a flat earther, because you're deaf and stupid and can't listen. I ask for scientific evidence of gravity and he quizzes me about his own rhetoric in maths. You're thick.
He's very thick. I'd like
only
for him
deal
to
with physical things, then,
So F equals MA is physical, is it, you absolute batshit crazy globehead moron? That's physical, is it?
Can you show
Math
it,
is
though?
abstract.
So you can ask me about what I can show. So I will get a concise question from this globe-believing moron, and I don't care if it takes an hour. So is F equals MA physics?
It describes the physical world.
Sorry, describes. So let me get it straight. That would be a description, an abstraction, not physics, then, globe-believing moron, having a strip tore off him by me, a flat earther. Not maths, not a description, not an abstraction. I'm asking for science! My God, you globe believers. How pathetic is this? He's come on to defend the globe belief. And what's he got to defend it with? He's got his maths. I'm asking for science, Dumbo. Haven't you got any science for this nonsense?
Yeah, so where's the physical...
Why are you asking me for physics now? I'm asking for any scientific evidence of gravity that would be based in physics. You're being asked for it.
Why are you fundy muting me, Nathan?
I'm not fundy muting you. I'm asking you for
Why
physics
are you
and you're
fundy
asking me
muting
about F equals MA. That's maths. You've not yet conceded
said you
that
deal in
isn't
the physical
physics.
things.
You just fundy muting me.
So show...
You're fundy muting me,
show
you
the
projecting
physical
twat.
container.
So, while this fundy muter projects that he's been muted and talks through me, I'll say what is ignored. I'm asking for science. That's based in physics, the physical. The natural world, that's what we deal with. And he's fundy muting me, aren't you, scumbag? Scumbag projector. Fundy muting me for the second time while I try and repeat that which he cannot address. Because he's a projecting asshole who's going to fundy mute me while I try for the 8th time. Right, fundy muter? Maybe project that I'm muting you again. So no, I'll just say it once more. I've asked for science, that's based in physics. Physics is based in the physical and natural world. That's what we deal with because we're realists. In reality, we're flat earthers. I'm asking you, a zealot fundy with a globe belief in a model that isn't real, whether or not this maths of F equals MA is physics. And you've told me it's a description. And all descriptions are abstract, mate. My words and their meaning aren't physical. Your maths and its description isn't physical. Now enjoy the strip a flat earther is tearing off this globe-believing retard who doesn't understand the difference between maths and physics. I do. But I'm not a retard who believes in a globe. This man asking me questions about his fundy faith is a moron. And he's a globe believer. And very regularly, these globe believing morons will have a strip tore off them by flat earthers. Get used to it.
Can I ask him a question, please, Nathan?
You can ask him whatever you like. I'm done with
So
him.
where's this physical dome? Dealing physical things.
Can I ask you a question, mate?
Yeah, I'm actually waiting for this physical dome because Nathan only deals with physical things.
So I just want to ask you a question.
Please show
I just want to ask you a question.
Please show this physical container.
We heard you the first time.
He's not showing it, is he?
This formula is F times A, right?
He's shouting at me for 5 minutes.
It's called total chaos. That's all he's here for. Now he's talking about domes. That's a non sequitur fallacy that he's now trying to employ. It's not F equals MA. It's not a concession that he doesn't understand the difference between physics and maths. He's not conceded, but he wants to now strawman us with a non sequitur fallacy about a dome. He's not addressing his failings in logic, is he?
Well, you said it's an antecedent.
Right, I asked you if F equals MA was maths or physics, given that we deal in reality here on Flat Earth Debate, because we're flat earthers. You deal in models and reifications because you're a moron globehead who uses the fundy mute button. See, audience? He's just fundy muting me. Doesn't want to hear that he's dealing in maths and abstractions. He doesn't want to hear it, so he's fundy muting me again. Why are you fundy muting me? Oh, so I'm not talking now, so he doesn't need to talk, doesn't need to interrupt and fundy mute me. Yet you're dealing in maths and abstractions, mate. Descriptions? Yeah, we're dealing in the reality of the natural world. Because we're flat earthers, we're realists. And I would like you, the fundy who's quizzed us on your rhetoric, to accept that your maths is not physics. You're yet to do that, because you're pathetic.
Well, Montreal, I wanted to ask you a simple question, but you just couldn't help yourself, could you?
Just ask him, Brahmi. Just go.
He's on about this F equals MA, right? So I wanted to ask him, like, obviously, the more mass an object has, the more force it needs to accelerate. So I wanted to ask, like, do a little, like a thought experiment, that if we had like a ton of bricks and we had half a ton of bricks, which ton of bricks would drop faster? So that's a question I need him to ask, because answer, that's all. But he can't answer, he said he's muted.
Why? What's the point of your question?
Because I'm trying to work out like what he actually means by his own equation. He says like that mass times, obviously the more mass it has, the more force it would need to accelerate. So if it's going to have more, you'd assume there's going to be more force on the larger ton of bricks. So that therefore that should accelerate faster, right? By using that formula.
Still haven't answered me, Tommy. Who cares?
The part that he skipped at the beginning was superseded. So it's been superseded. It's 105 years old. They realize how BS it was, so they're not even going by it. But this guy is a relic from the past. He's still hanging on to it, and I'd like for him to define superseded, because he doesn't even know that.
Yeah, he's not going to do that. He's going to quiz us. He's going to quiz us on what superseded what.
Define antecedent. Does he know what antecedent means?
Going to quiz us on what he considers us to claim superseded something we're not claiming. We're laying out their rhetoric because we've drawn a line in the sand and said we're not going to have any more of this 105-year out-of-date superseded nonsense of a claim that mass attracts mass. We've had enough. It's 105 years out of date. That's what we're discussing. Now, while he's got his non sequitur fallacy to go onto domes and whatever crap when he's talking his maths, doesn't change the fact that he's talking about maths, we're talking about physics. He's got nothing but reification of description. Well, I'm not interested. We are flat earthers. We're interested in the physical and natural world, not your maths, not your descriptions, not your reifications of models. We're interested in reality here. Science deals with physics of the natural world. So any scientific evidence that we're going to have is going to come from, for the sake of argument, your astrophysics people, your pseudoscience cosmology people. Yeah, all of these people are the people you need to appeal to for actual science. I mean, might as well ask that housekeeping question. Is there any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not even from Becky. Observation only.
Not yet.
For those of you in the audience who don't recognise, we're asking not for scientific evidence. We're asking for a viable cause and effect supposition, which is known as a scientific prediction. That's a hypothesis. We're saying any of the fields that up until now in 2020 have claimed to you, the audience, that they've got science for this bullshit claim we live on a sphere, ask them for a hypothesis, just a valid hypothesis, not even the tests to validate it, just a hypothesis that actually works as an actual hypothesis. They can't do it, but yet they're telling you they've got science. They've got nothing. They don't have any science, but yet they're under the banner of science lying to you about pseudoscience. They're not establishing cause.
They hide behind
so the science deniers.
We're pseudoscience exposers. They are science deniers. I've got on record the guy from Vsauce, Michael, telling you in no uncertain times that science doesn't prove things. My rebuttal, so men are still dying of scurvy. Science didn't establish the cause being a lack of vitamin C. Through science, saving countless lives. Yes, science absolutely proves things. Advancing humanity. But these dipshit globe believers will tell you that science doesn't prove things, because they are science deniers. We are pseudoscience exposers, and these fields, astronomy, cosmology, they're all pseudosciences. None of them got scientific validity, and we expose that while actually asking for actual science, which you haven't got if you're a globe believer. You got fantasies and just so stories.
How dare you ask for science?
Sorry, Neil. I got in a bit. Were you finished, Neil?
Finish, Neil? Did you want to say something else? Neil? Neil! Go on, Brian.
You got...
Okay. Yeah. No, I actually only got an example of that in the past 10 minutes, where someone I was commenting to earlier claimed to have an experiment and involved water in a barrel. And that when you put the barrel on the side, the water is at the bottom, goes down still, like goes along the side of the barrel. When you roll the barrel, the water stays at the bottom, right? This is to do with relative density equilibrium. And I said that's not. I just said to him, but before I explained how he was wrong in his assertion, I won't go into it. I said to him, that's not an experiment. He came back and told me it was an experiment, that his hypothesis was that there was water in a barrel and that there was an external force acting on the barrel and all the contents of it. That's
what?
That's what they come up with. This is what you get on a regular basis of them. You know, the hypothesis, that there's water in a barrel and there's an external force acting on it. What's that a hypothesis of? What's the claim? What is this external force? You know, there's a million questions there. What is this? Where is the cause and effect? What do we validate from this? You know, they don't have a clue, like these people.
Yeah, but what is the phenomena observed in the first place?
Exactly.
Water in a barrel, supposedly.
That naturally occurring water in a barrel.
Yeah, and when you put the barrel on the side, the naturally occurring water in the barrel is naturally, the water is naturally on the side of the barrel. We don't naturally see water in barrels.
You answered the question. You put the barrel on its side.
I think we've solved this little scientific conundrum, haven't we? Wow. That took a long time.
I think we have them over a barrel.
Yeah.
Moving on. Was there anything else? Anybody? Any more? Single viable hypothesis. Any of the fields. Cosmology, astrophysics, astronomy. Anybody? Any evidence of
not that I know of.
Self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Any evidence of that?
Yummy marshmallows over fire.
Yummy molten core.
The actually only real life part of that they have to back up the story is that convection is a thing, because that's part of the story. So that's the only part, the actual only real world thing that they have to back that story. Convection.
Yeah, but when they attach it to a just so story, that's just a just so story with an example that it can demonstrate in simplistic terms that they're trying to apply to something they haven't established the cause of.
You see, they were actually very dumb when making a claim what the radius is, because now they have a set depth that they had to go to, and they couldn't even get to that depth.
Yeah, they haven't got a clue. No one knows anything about the ground beneath our feet. Very limited. What is it, 12 kilometres, just under, they dug down to?
Yep.
8 miles.
7.
They got it wrong every mile down.
Yeah, P waves and S waves failed them. They didn't get the predictions right of what they'd be drilling through.
And yet they would know what happens on planets and stuff so far away.
Yeah, they know what's at the centre of the sun, of course. Even based on their astronomical distances when they assume Venus is the same size as the presupposed spherical Earth with its R value. They know what's in the middle of that, right? Stellar spectroscopy. Okay, let's move on.
Well,
go on, Tent. Go on.
Well, I was just going to revisit the black swan here. I mean, obviously they don't have the R here that they say they have. So if they have that wrong, and Flatso said it earlier, then everything is wrong about Venus and all this fantasy world that they're making. So they don't even have R here.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Not even close.
Well,
anybody aware of the measurement, visual aspect of Dr. John D? He saw clear through to France from England.
That's been verified. He showed me that, and we discussed it before he released it. And I said, tread very carefully, given that we declared that we could see Ireland. Remember? For anybody who's a dedicated Flat Earth debate watcher.
Remember,
I don't know if I would be so keen to openly declare that little smudge on the horizon a not physical location before we get off the beaten path of the point here, R value evidence. The horizon's not a physical place, but nevertheless, that little blur that is claimed potentially to be France may or may not be France. However, the evidence that's presented by Dr. John D is a black swan. The horizon is behind the wind turbines he has in his example. You can even see the high and low watermark. You don't really need anything else to affirm a black swan. It doesn't need a claim of being able to see France either. So, yeah, you could claim it. Maybe someone will claim that it's France. And I don't think... hold on a second. How do you know that? How do you know this? Because I discussed this with Dr. John D, but I don't believe he put it in his video, did he? How do you know this?
No,
What's going on?
I'll tell you how. Ranty did a breakdown of it. He did the measurements, and it appears to be France, Nathan.
Appears to be. It's absolutely unequivocally a black swan with the wind turbines. So what's this? Might be weaseliness. What do you mean? It might be. Appears to be. I know it appears to be. I've seen it.
That. We're not 100% sure, but it's still a black swan. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm not attacking you, Montreal. You're just the messenger. But if it is Ranty, tread with caution. You know, why speculate? I don't know. How much weight did he lend to this? He might have just mentioned it in passing, for all I know.
No, he did a whole thing, Nathan. He did a presentation. He measured it, and look, I trust Ranty. Now, if you got it wrong, I don't know, but
I'm not saying he's got it wrong.
Said, it's still a black swan.
No, hold on. Rewind. No. I'm not saying he's got it wrong. I looked at it, lined it up with the wind turbines with Dr. John D before he released it. I've just explained this. And it appears to be France. I'm going to say that. I'm going to repeat your terminology. Yeah, I agree. It appears to be France. However, it's absolutely without question a black swan. And that demolishes, literally obliterates the heliocentric argument. So my only advice to Ranty would be tread with caution. The speculation isn't necessarily required. Unless you want to fight. Not with me. With whoever is going to object to it.
I agree, I admire your tenaciousness on this. Agreed.
Yeah, it's where you're trying to it's where you're trying to put the point. The point shouldn't be I can see France. The point should be you see too far.
Well, that's it. It's only really useful if you're going to use if you're going to step into their reification and start showing side on Muppet vision to say we should or shouldn't see this based on a model. Well, number one, I hate those examples because why is it that we're asserting as flat earthers how much we should or should not see based on what they say our earth is with a model? Well, we shouldn't. I don't claim that a model says how much I should or shouldn't see. What we see is what we see. That's presented to us by our eyeballs, not by what a model predicts with mathematics in side view when it ignores perspective. So while you might be able to take their reification that step further by saying, look how far it is. Well, yeah, that's only useful when you've stepped into their reification and their mathematics of globe.
Yeah, we're definitely playing in their arena when we do that. That goes without question.
Got to beg the question of a globe first to make that example useful. And for me, I can take their example that they claim with geometry, assert it with the black swan that's presented in that very video, and say, look, here's the low and high water mark on the wind turbines. Distance, I can't remember the exact one, but I'm just going to guess probably a bit lower than this, but I think it was 3 miles to the horizon. The wind turbines are well beyond 10, the furthest one at least. You can see the high and low water mark on it, and the horizon's behind it. You've got no Earth curve geometry. We've already gone through this a few times. We've already had the responses. What's their response to that assertion? Forget about France for a moment. The response is, quote, we do not see the geometric horizon. That's their rebuttal. That's the globers telling us, we don't see Earth curve. We've won. What do we need France for? We don't need it.
You're right. Yeah. Can't argue with that, bro.
What I would say about it is that when I saw this the other night, I saw it on Ranty's stream. First thing I said is that the ballers are going to latch onto that. And they have. Ski Man Dan was the first to publicly come out and latch onto it. I don't know all the details of that, but I know he's latched onto it. And what's happening is they're going to either validate that it isn't France, or validate that we can't validate it's France. So consequently, the whole point is they're moving the argument away from the black swan element of what Dr. John Dee actually did. They're moving it into whether this is France or not. And so it becomes a mutated argument, and they are being given a doorway to avoid the main argument, which destroys their model. And also at the same time, if they can validate that we can't validate that it's France, then that also throws mud onto the whole of what Dr. John Dee did. They can then hand wave the whole lot away, because that's what they need. They don't need, what they always look for is anything they can find to hand wave something away, because they don't have anything to fight back against Flat Earth. They have to find things to hand wave away whatever evidence we put forward. And this is what they need.
Well,
do you understand?
They just ignore it, though, most of the time, and then resort back to their own very primitive, underdeveloped straw man conception of what our flat Earth model is supposed to be like. And that's usually what they do. And then they make us try to explain to them why our model does work, which is like a very elaborate process, very complex to really do that.
Really?
And they're never going to listen anyway,
works,
so they're just
Arwen.
wasting our time every time.
There's no turning back from
Arwen. Yeah, so Arwen, when you talk about this equilibrium thing with the whole relative density, what does that mean? Does that mean if things go to the path of least resistance?
Hold on, let me just get control. Can you let Ed get his question through to Arwen? Just Arwen and Ed, please. Go ahead, Ed. Can you repeat your question for Arwen? Please don't interrupt him.
Yeah, so if you say equilibrium, do you mean things go through the path of least resistance?
What?
When it seeks the equilibrium?
Question, Arwen, is does the item you're describing seek the path of least resistance in your description? He's paraphrasing and asking if that's correct. Would you agree?
I haven't considered. I don't know. Probably, yeah. It will move like diagonally, if that is the only path it is left to maneuver towards. That makes it slightly closer to its equilibrium point. So if you put a big lead ball on a slope that's 45 degrees down, yeah, it will start to roll off. That's right.
Right. So does that mean it follows the path of least resistance?
Just agreed. Don't ask him the same question. He's just answered you.
Right. So if there's less,
hold on, Brian. I just want to hear Ed respond.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Ed.
If you have a body of water, or like the atmosphere, the more you go up, the less dense it is. So how come things don't move upwards if it's the path of least resistance?
Because the thing falling through it's more dense, you fuckwit. Are you dense?
That's ridiculous, I mean. It shows you don't understand that you don't understand what's being said. That's all that
demonstrates. The path of least resistance, it only works like up to 180 degrees. You see?
But regardless of the fact that the stuff higher up is even less dense, the thing travelling through it is more dense than all of it, therefore has a downward vector. Doesn't matter that there's slightly less dense stuff above that. It's more dense than all of it combined. So it's going to have a downward vector because it's more dense. How thick are you?
It's actually got it backwards. It goes to show they don't even understand what we're saying. They don't understand anything that flat earthers are saying. You guys need to actually understand the arguments before you attack them.
Exactly. No, I'm just asking a question based on relative density and the path of least resistance.
But if I ask you a question,
doesn't make sense then if it goes down towards where things are more dense.
If I ask you a question about the time and I started talking about continents, would you think to yourself, hang on, this guy don't know what he's on about?
Let me answer, Ed. It's not about what the thing, like what is down there, you know? It only depends, the relative density situation and the disequilibrium, on what the object, or whatever it is directly surrounded by. So you can dig a giant hole in a mountain, very, very deep, right through the mountain, and an object will fall all the way down there because, within that tube, it's going to be surrounded by air, which is less dense than the object, presumably. And it's going to continue falling until it can no longer, until it's being obstructed from maneuvering further.
Why?
Which is at the bottom of the well, basically.
That's surrounding it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Alwyn. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, so what happened to all the mountain that's surrounding it?
Is there a point to all of this, Ed?
Hold on, moving.
Just 1 second.
You didn't answer the question, actually.
Yeah,
why did you ask such a
You didn't answer my question.
Why did you ask such a stupid question?
Sorry,
if you
understand Tommy, you're not helping. Tommy, hello? You're not helping.
What's up?
I just need you to shut up. What's your point, Ed?
If you're going to say it's relative density and the path of least resistance, things should move through things that are less dense and go towards the less dense points. But they don't. They go to points that are more dense.
Do they? Stop a second. They go to the less dense, do they? According to you. So if I look at a rock on the ground, it's going to go flying up to the less dense medium, is it, you complete tard?
That's what I'm asking. That should happen if it's relative density, isn't it?
Or are you describing something that's
Why
been...
are you mad, Nathan?
He's just going to talk through me, asshole. Are you describing something that's already been taken out of equilibrium by any chance?
I was actually asking Arwin.
Yeah, and that's not answering my question. My question's simple. Are we describing a rock on the ground that is obviously not flying up into the least dense medium? Because it in and of itself is more dense than the medium when in equilibrium. My question, which I've now elaborated on, is were you asking a question about something that was already in disequilibrium? No answer so far.
What does that even mean?
It means, are you describing a rock on the ground which obviously completely violates your point because it's not flying up into the less dense air from the ground? But if your point is about a rock that you've picked up, forcing it out of equilibrium, it's still equally not going to fly up out of your hand as described in your example, but it's already in disequilibrium. But you've dodged it now 3 times. My question about whether or not you're asking about something that presumably you have forced out of equilibrium, and your question's beginning at the point that you're holding a rock and then dropping it and asking why this rock you've taken out of equilibrium isn't flying up out of your hand.
Resistance in this whole relative density thing, shouldn't it?
You don't understand it.
I'm glad you agree. I'm glad you agree, Nathan.
For a second, the relative
total chaos ensues.
No, I actually didn't ignore anything. I'm glad you debunked Nathan.
I asked a question you yet to answer, Ed. You haven't answered me.
Well, you made a whole bunch of claims just now.
Do you need me to repeat the question? Are you still as stupid as when we talked earlier? Can't listen to the question? Do you need it paraphrasing in more simplistic terms? Maybe less syllables per word? You haven't answered me, Ed.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Because it's your claim.
No, I'll ask again, Ed.
So,
I'll ask again. Nice and slowly. Is this example starting with a rock being held in the air, or is the rock on the ground being asked, why isn't it flying up into the less dense medium? Which rock on the ground, or already having had a lot of energy picking it up? What kind of rock is in your example, Ed?
Both.
So you don't understand the argument.
Shut up, Tommy!
Both.
Tommy, shut up!
I said both of them.
Sorry, it's both simultaneously a rock on the ground, and you're asking why the rock on the ground isn't flying up into the air, and a rock in your hand that you've taken out of equilibrium. It's both, is it? That's nonsensical stupidity. Are we done here?
So you can't answer?
Oh. I can't answer the question I've asked you about whether or not this rock is in disequilibrium or on the ground. The question I've asked you, you're now saying, I can't answer that. Yeah, you're done here, Ed.
I said both, so...
Both. Simultaneously on the ground and in his hand, waiting to be dropped, having been picked up. No, that's an impossibility and total moronic nonsense.
Really? You can't have two rocks in reality?
So it's two rocks now, is it, moron? So I asked specifically, is your rock singular? Now it's two rocks because you can't answer me. Let me answer for the audience's benefit why this moron globehead won't answer. His rock that he's asking Arwin has been picked up like a microphone by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and his example starts with the microphone, or in this case rock, already in disequilibrium. He's then going to ask why the item he's picked up, taking it out of equilibrium, isn't, rather than returning to equilibrium, going to fly up into the sky. Now explain to me why this mic, when I drop it, having already picked it up, isn't flying up, because obviously above it's less dense. Let's ignore that I've had to pick it up to make the example. Now, he's not going to ever justify the fact that I'm quizzing him on his ignorance of the picking up bit. He's just going to say it's simultaneously on the ground and having been picked up. Total nonsense from a globetard who's getting his ass handed to him by a flat earther for the second time in a single show. So he's got to say, it's both on the ground and in my hand. What a moron. That's what you got, fundies, when you need to assert your single downward vector with examples that start with you picking stuff up and dropping them, but ignoring the picking up bit. Right, Ed?
Like, how
total silence.
We talked about relative density now. If you're not getting it, then you're not getting it on purpose.
Mantra, you don't understand.
Can I say something about
let me guess.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking questions,
why
but you're not
things
explaining it.
Try to understand something first before you ask the question. You're not
understanding. There's a Tommy and Ed conversation going on that you're talking over. Go ahead, Tommy and Ed. If it's more than ad hom, or if it isn't, I'll stop you straight away. Go ahead, Tommy.
Oh, I was just saying to Montreal that the fact that he asked that question just demonstrates that he isn't understanding what Arwin's saying, or what the claim of relative density is. I think he's in his head. He's saying it gives it directionality. I think it's something from Simon Danted, or the air above it's less dense, then why don't it go up? That's a complete straw man and a misrepresentation and a misunderstanding of the actual argument. So that's all I have to say on that, really.
Right on. Ed, did you want to respond, and then Chocolate? Then Chocolate, then Brian. Ed, go ahead. Chocolate, go ahead.
No, good morning, first off. I just got here.
Hello.
Morning.
What's up?
Chocolate.
No, I was wondering if this was the same argument, the nonsensical argument of, why are things going up? Because there's less, the air up is less dense. Is that what I walked into?
No, we haven't got to net force zero with things in equilibrium yet, if that's your question. No, we haven't reached that stage.
Okay.
Brian, but I'm sure we'll get there. We're running out of live time, but we'll get there. I'm certain of it in the after show. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Sorry for talking in there over you.
It's fine. Everyone's keen. It's all good.
Tommy is correct. Ed does not understand what it is. He has no understanding. He's actually asking questions about it, but he's also, at the same time, he's not wanting to understand. All matter needs structural support. Matter is physical. It all needs structural support. So when density of matter, right, causes weight. So if you take raindrops coming from the sky, that little small drop of rain is more dense than the gases that surround it. So the gases that surround it can't structurally support that drop of rain. So it has to land either on another liquid or on a solid for structural support. So, Ed, if you think of it like this, rain falls down because the gases that surround it can't support its density. The density of the drop of rain, the density of the gases that surround the drop of rain is not enough to structurally support the drop of rain. That's why things fall down. Now, the other side of that is you have gases like helium that are less dense than other gases like oxygen. So oxygen can support helium. If you put oxygen and helium into a closed container, the helium, if you put the two of them into a container, the helium is more likely to be up at the top of the container and the oxygen will be at the bottom of the container, because the oxygen has enough structural support for the helium. But it won't work the other way around because the helium doesn't have enough structural support for the oxygen. So if you think about things in structural support, they don't go try to put foundations onto water. They put foundations onto solid ground when they're building something. It's the same thing. It's engineering. You have to think of it in an engineering sense. Yeah, all density of matter needs structural support. That's how it works.
That's a good
quick
one.
shout out
Can I add
to
something onto that?
Just before you do, quick shout out to Unitox Femo, who says, "Still on stage. Who moved the rock refraction?" Okay, thank you very much for the super chat. Was it Flatsoid? Go ahead.
No, it was me.
Go ahead, Darwin.
Our accents are not that much alike, thank you. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add on for the clarification for people like Ed that are thick, that, yeah, the relative part in the relative density is not relative directions of the displacement. The displacements are very much set. They're set on a very specific vector that, yeah, it can basically try to find the path of least resistance, evading because of that from that specific vector. But the vector is always set and it never changes. It's up and down in a natural state, and you would have to add other forces or diagonal obstructions to cause it to evade from that specific vector. So yeah, the relative density directions are set. They are not relative. The relative only relates to the relation between the object and the medium. That's what the relative is about, not the directions. The directions are very much set.
Perfect. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Well, there's this myth apparently about this this gravity thing that acts as a container when they want it to.
Yeah, gravity doesn't give them a container, Tommy.
that's what they believe. They think it's containing it and causing the gas pressure in it. This invisible force that pulls things and pushes things and does things that doesn't do things, and you can see and you can't see it. It's literally their god.
Well, alas, gravity doesn't make gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank, as asserted by Thunderfoot. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Stay tuned if you are watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!